Violent Night is directed by Tommy Wirkola and stars David Harbour, John Leguizamo, and among others. And this story, it essentially deals with a family that are in this secluded area that are at this wealthy mansion that they go to visit the main guy's mother, who's played by Beverly D'Angelo, and they end up basically having a family get together for Christmas. And one night, they end up pretty much getting home invaded by John Leguizamo, who's playing a guy named Scrooge, who wants to essentially steal from them as they hold a fortune. And along the way, it's up to David Harbour, who plays Santa Claus in this, that has to rescue them from the evil bad guys. Now, I'm going to leave it there because there's some other stuff I can't really get into detail with without going into spoiling, but if you've seen the trailers for this movie, it essentially is pretty much what you expect, where it's like Santa Claus essentially taken foot into having to do some stuff that you see in movies like Die Hard and a little bit of Home Alone and things like that. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, this movie was actually directed by Tommy Wirkola, I believe that's his name, who actually directed a really fun movie I really enjoy called Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters that came out in 2013 that I had a blast with. That took the tale of Hansel and Gretel and made it a fun, ass-kicking witch hunter movie with that was a lot of gore. That was very gory and just a lot of fun to watch. And from the previews already from this movie, it really got me curious because I really like the idea of seeing a Santa Claus, kicking ass, and also, having to do this whole home invasion type of movie cross with it. And in a way, it was kind of giving me vibes that we had a couple years ago when Mel Gibson did his movie called Fat Man, where, much like in that film, it dealt with Santa Claus having to essentially take down criminals and take down a criminal as well and essentially fend off territory. Only in that movie, it was him having to defend his own area, and his own home and everything. But it's still, it got me very similar vibes with that. And so, after upon seeing this movie, I can honestly say this was a blast. Like, I had a really great time from beginning to end. To get my pros out of the way, I thought David Harbour was really excellent in this. He really carries it all playing Santa Claus, and he's pretty much what you expect that this Santa Claus would be, where he's not very used to using like guns and stuff. Instead, he relies more on his like trusty mallet and using candy canes and stuff that you would traditionally see Santa Claus do. And what I really appreciate too is the fact that he actually does have this kind of funny vibe that reminds me off of Billy Bob Thornton's Bad Santa, where he's drinking. He's kind of getting tired about how kids are always asking for a lot of the same stuff, like video games and stuff like that. And the movie really goes into a little bit of his backstory that showcases a little bit of like where he comes from, but not too much. And so I appreciate that aspect of his character. And the kind of relationship that also builds upon with him and the little girl in the film, I thought was very heartwarming as well. And I thought that they really did a great job together. The rest of the cast are tremendous. I really got to appreciate John Leguizamo on this. Funny enough, he was just in a movie earlier this year called The Menu that I really enjoyed him in. And here he gets to pretty much play a Hans Gruber type role where he's so like pissed off about this family that he's stealing from and stuff like that. And he basically hasn't had the holiday spirit in a long time since an incident happened when he was a kid. And essentially, he goes by the name of Scrooge in this, and I thought that was really touching because he gives all of his other henchmen funny names and stuff throughout. And I thought he was great, and the rest of the cast is really good, especially the little girl that plays the other little girl that's in the film. That's very cute and heartwarming vibe that you would expect from this kind of character, who's also who just saw Home Alone, and that kind of comes into play later at the film. And speaking of Home Alone, like this movie goes into some territory that, in a way, it almost feels like a realistic version of Home Alone, where it's a lot more brutaler. It's a lot more, what you expect if Home Alone made it to where the wet bandits essentially got their asses killed in an instant from the traps that they set up. And on top of the other bloody stuff that they go throughout, where Santa Claus is going around, killing people with candy canes and using his mallet and stuff like that, and just the movie doesn't hold back on its brutality. And there's even a funny death scene that had me through the floor toward the end that I can't get into detail with, but let's just say that it had me really almost on the floor laughing. But it was just so great. And so that's really kind of the gist of it, because the movie knows what it's trying to do with similar plots that you see in other films, but it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it makes it to where it goes by at a really good pace that makes it really feel like, you know, where you're expected to have this kind of vibe. And so I thought that was great. I really got to enjoy the Christmas atmosphere in this. And one thing I will say I like this one better than, say, Fat Man is that the movie look like it's on a higher budget this time. So you can tell they put a lot more emphasis on the cinematography and things like that. And, you know, we don't get to see much of the reindeer in this, but when it is on screen, we do get to see some funny banter between the reindeer and Santa Claus that I thought was funny. And so that was great. And then, you know, and then there's some other great little. It's also great seeing Beverly D'Angelo in a Christmas movie again since Christmas Vacation. So I thought she was great as well. If I got to get into any kind of like minor cons, I will say that the movie does have your typical by the numbers type of family dynamic that you kind of see in other films, and there is also, not going to go into spoilers, but they do kind of a twist in this that I think was handled better in another certain film that I could see a lot more that the movie was directly trying to inspire from. Because the way it played out, it felt like, because it was kind of thrown together with the way the plot goes along, I felt like it was better executed in another film that I can't mention because you'll know the twist that I'm talking about. But let's just say it has to do with a villain in the film. And so I'll leave it there. And then one of the other things is that, yes, the movie does kind of overstay a little bit in the third act to where it does have some more like convenient stuff that happens that you would kind of expect from this kind of movie. Well, and not every joke does land either, as there are some lines here and there that are kind of what don't always, you know, work as far as the comedy. But for the most part, I was still laughing my ass off. On top of that, there's some other things that would have been nice to kind of see more of Santa's backstory in this, that they could have put more emphasis on. That I think if they plan on doing like another like shared universe with this or anything, like, or set up a universe in this world, I could see them probably doing that in the future. But for now, from what we get, it still had me going with the way it played out in the story. But overall, though, I still had a blast with this, and it's definitely one of the most entertaining films of the year for me. And so with that, I'm going to give the film a very high, extremely high, great entertaining high compelling grade on the Film Freaks meter. So for those of you who have also seen Violent Night, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.